My crappy brother-in-law flipped at my wife and told her to get over her best friend's death because he was honest. Now he is being shunned by the whole family. I am married to the love of my life, Kay. We met when we were 17. She was out and proud whilst I was still in the closet, so we didn't start dating until I came out at 21. We got married in 2019 and have an adopted 4-year-old son, Jack. This comes in relevant in a minute. My sister Sarah has a long-term boyfriend, Steve, who the family cannot stand. They've been together for 8 years and the whole family has hated him from the first time we met him. He is rude, obnoxious, arrogant, and all in all a crappy human being. He's also someone who likes to claim that he is just honest, but if someone is honest back to him he flips out and sulks like a toddler. In fact, my toddler is better behaved than him. He isn't abusive to Sarah and doesn't direct these comments towards her, it's just the rest of us. He's actually a good partner to her and treats her well, which is his one redeeming quality. My dad and Kay hate him the most and will do anything to avoid him at family gatherings. Kay usually just ignores him and brushes off anything he says to her as she doesn't like conflict. However, there have been a few occasions that she has said something back, but it's usually said in a joking manner which amuses my dad to no end. My mom is a peacekeeper and will do anything to avoid drama, so she just changes the topic whenever he starts, but she and my grandparents all hate him just as much as the rest of us. Sarah is the only one who doesn't hate him. Our son's birth mother Tess was Kay's best friend, who sadly died in 2021. This was a real shock as she had an underlying heart condition that she didn't know about and simply went to sleep one night and never woke up. Jack had been left alone in his cot all day screaming for his mom before Kay got worried that Tess wasn't answering her texts and went to their house to see if she was okay. She found Jack in his cot and Tess in her bed. We adopted Jack as no one in Tess's family was in a position to take him in. We raise him as our own, but he knows who Tess is. Obviously, this is a very sensitive topic for Kay as it was so traumatic for her and Jack. Now, on to what happened last weekend. It was the anniversary of Tess's death on Saturday, so Kay, Jack, and I went to visit her grave. Kay is always quiet after going to see her, and this time of year is especially hard for her. On Sunday we had a family gathering at my parents' house. These happen every couple of months as just a catch-up for everyone. At first, nothing was out of the ordinary. Kay and my dad were off to the side talking as usual, only I could see that Kay was obviously struggling, so my dad and she went for a walk so she could clear her head. This is something they have done before, so nothing too unusual. However, Steve had an issue with this and asked why they had left and why he wasn't invited to walk with them. I explained that Tess and Kay just needed a minute. This wasn't good enough for Steve though, and he said she should have gotten over it by now. At this, my granddad, who is naturally a very quiet guy, said that his best friend had died over 20 years ago and he still had days where he missed him so much it hurt. You don't just get over something like that. Steve shut at that. Kay and my dad got back and she was in a much better mood. We all sat down at the table for our late lunch and started chatting. Everything was fine at first until Steve started trying to butt into Kay's conversation with my granddad. When it was obvious that they weren't going to include him, he very loudly stated, "This is bullshit. She's getting all the attention of everyone because her friend died 3 fucking years ago. Get over it for fuck's sake, we're all sick of hearing about it." The whole table went silent and I took one look at Kay and knew she was about to go off on Steve. Only it didn't happen the way I thought. Rather than exploding at him, she looked at him very calmly and said that she and Granddad weren't talking about Tess. They were making plans to take him to the Christmas markets, but if you want to be a dick then no problem. She then went on to say to him that everyone in the family hates him because he's a toxic, narcissistic fuckwad. Whenever he can't come to a family gathering, the whole family is much happier. That there is a reason he has no friends and that his own family can't stand to be around him. That reason is that he's rotten from the inside out, and that Tess may have only been on this planet for 32 years, but she made a bigger impact on people than he would if he lived until he was 150. That her funeral was rammed with people because she was so loved, whereas he'd be lucky if anyone other than Sarah was at his. After that, she got up and went to the back garden and I followed her. A few minutes later my dad came out and said that he told Sarah and Steve to leave. We went back inside and Kay apologized to everyone and said she should have just kept her mouth shut. Everyone other than my mom told her what she had done was right and it was about time someone told him. My dad then found it hilarious that a lesbian had been the one to tell him straight, which lightened the mood a lot. We spent the rest of the afternoon there before going to pick Jack up from Kay's mom's house, as she had him overnight on Saturday for us. The reason I'm making this post is that yesterday I got a call from Sarah saying that her and Steve wanted an apology from Kay or they weren't going to Christmas. When I reminded her that we wouldn't be at Christmas either as it our year to spend it with Kay's mom, so it made no difference to us, she got really upset saying that she wanted an apology because Kay was way out of line. I said she wasn't and that I wouldn't even contemplate asking her to apologize because I agreed with everything she said, and so did everyone else there. She ended the call and I just went back to work. Then today my dad called me and asked if Kay's mom would mind a few more for Christmas, as he was refusing to spend it with Steve, so he and my granddad needed someone else to go. Apparently after Sarah had called me, she has called mom and started ranting, and my mom had told my dad to get Kay to apologize, which he said no to, and they had an argument, and my dad has now decided that he's done with Steve even if that affects his relationship with Sarah. He's not having it anymore. My mom wants Sarah there, and she won't go without Steve, so my dad is going somewhere else, and my granddad agreed with him. I text Kay's mom and she said they were welcome, so now my mom is furious and saying that my dad and Kay are ripping the family apart. So basically this has turned into a poop show. Kay has said she will apologize if I want her to, just to keep the peace, but I've told her no way. Everything she said was true. I just don't know where to go from here, and the people in my life all hate Steve that much that Kay could have physically attacked him and they would all still think she is in the right. Update: 8 days later. First thing was that I spoke to my grandparents on my mom's side. They were there when this all happened, but they're like my mom and just constantly try to keep the peace. That's where she gets it from. They were supposed to be spending Christmas with my mom this year but had changed their minds and decided to spend it with my uncle instead. They have made the decision to not be around Steve either as he causes too much drama. They asked if they could come and see us and Jack on the 23rd before they head off to my uncle's, which I happily agreed to. This really surprised me and it outright shocked my mom, as like I said they are the biggest take the high road type people I've ever met, but even they'd had enough. The next thing that happened was my dad called to let me know that Steve and Sarah had now decided that they want Kay to make a public apology in front of the whole family and admit she was lying and that the family loves Steve. He was laughing as he told me this and called them delusional, so any small chance of a superficial apology went out the window. The third thing that happened was Jack getting home from after school club with a recorder that I am sorely tempted to shove up the teacher's backside. So all in all it wasn't a great day. Through talking to people on here, I also realized that Steve has been trying to push Kay and I out of the family, organizing trips that he knows we would be able to go on. We wouldn't have gone on them anyway as a weekend away with him sounds worse than a paper cut to the eyeball, and him constantly trying to get my dad away from Kay whenever we are all together. I think this is because he is jealous of Kay and Dad's relationship as they're very close and go on trips to classic car shows several times a year together, usually with my granddad as well. Anyway, things went quiet for a few days until the weekend. Our town has a big Christmas fair that runs from November through December and we always go to it with Mum, Dad, Granddad, Kay's mum. We decided to cheer my mum up a bit to go on Sunday and then out for dinner afterward. My mum was told that if Sarah or Steve showed up then we would all leave and she promised they wouldn't be there. Things were a bit awkward at first but settled after a while. At one point Jack got my mum and dad to take him on the giant snow slide and as my mum walked back over to us she had tears in her eyes. I pulled her to one side to see what was going on and she said that whilst waiting in line, Jack had said he was happy Uncle Steve wasn't here. When my mum asked why, he said that Uncle Steve was a bad man. My mum tried to say that he wasn't, but in typical stubborn 4-year-old fashion, he had argued and said he learned in school that people who say mean things all the time are bad people and Uncle Steve said mean things all the time so he was a bad man and that he didn't like him. There had been a case of bullying in his class a few weeks ago and the teacher had done a lesson on how wrong bullying is, so I think that's where this came from. This finally broke through to my mum. If even a 4-year-old can see what a horrible prick the man is then she had to as well. She said that she felt stuck because she hated Steve and agreed with everything that Kay has said but she loves Sarah and doesn't want to isolate her. I told her I would always be there for her, but I wasn't putting myself, Jack or Kay, through being around Steve again and she needed to think about what she wanted. Not what I want or Dad or Kay or Jack or her parents or Sarah or Steve, but what she wants. She went quiet and then said that Kay's mom had told her she was welcome at hers for Christmas if she wanted to and that she could decide on Christmas Day if she wanted. Kay's mom would save her a plate. We went back to the group and a little while later I saw Mom and Kay's mom having a deep discussion while walking behind us. Neither will say what they talked about, but Mom seemed a bit happier after their talk. They have also been talking since. Yesterday my mom told me that she will be coming to Kay's mom's for Christmas and they've been talking about going shopping together next week. When Mom told Sarah after calling me, Sarah predictably lost her mind and said that Mom was choosing us over her. My mom told her she was choosing to have a good Christmas rather than being belittled and made miserable all for the sake of Steve and his so-called honesty. Sarah then called me and asked if I was happy that I'd won. She then did the unforgivable and used a few homophobic slurs towards me and Kay and called Jack the bastard of a whore. I ended the call, blocked her everywhere, and then let my family know what had happened and that I never wanted to speak to her again. They're all as appalled as I am and my Ganny, Mum's mum, called Sarah and apparently told her she was dead to her as she won't have a bigot in the family. Sarah has been trying to reach out to apologize because she knows she has stepped over the unforgivable line, but I've just kept blocking the fake accounts that she's making on IG. Steve tried reaching out to my dad after this and when he eventually answered Steve tried to say that Sarah was just angry and didn't mean it. According to Mum, Dad ended up giving him a verbal lashing and told him that he was the worst thing that had ever happened to Sarah and our family. My dad has told Sarah he is disgusted with her but will be there for her if she leaves Steve. Until then, good luck. Mum has gone low contact as well, but wants to keep the door open so that Sarah isn't completely isolated. I had a few people saying that Steve may be abusive towards Sarah, but I really don't think he is. He usually acts like a dick when the attention isn't on him. He knows that when he says dickish things then all the attention is on him and he revels in it. After Sarah's outburst, I just think that they're both toxic and feed off each other's toxicity. She lets him get away with the things he says because she gets pleasure out of watching us all bite our tongues and keep quiet. So, Mum's angry, Dad's angry, our 3 grandparents are angry, extended family is angry and Kay is being my rock, but I can tell she's really angry about what she said towards Jack. I'm just sad and done with it all. At least now I know what she really thinks about Jack, Kay, and myself, so there's that. Not the perfect update, but we move on. It will be nice this Christmas to have both sides of the family together for the first time and not have to worry about Steve being a PP, but I'm sad that is how my relationship with my sister has ended. I'm trying to get into the Christmas spirit but it's a tough one right now. The only things that make me smile are Kay and Jack being goofy idiots to cheer me up. However, the recorder can go to hell.